Hi, this is Crystal. I'm the Nomad Nurse. Let me give you a little bit of introduction about myself. Yes, as you could tell in the title of my video, I am a nurse. I'm actually a nurse practitioner. I love to travel. And so some of the things you will see on this channel will be healthcare related and with a travel component or an adventure component. Just come along with me as I live my day-to-day life. Some people might think it's boring. Some people might find it interesting. I have a very interesting tale. I am a breast cancer survivor. Back in 2002, I found my own breast cancer lump. Nobody believed that I had it. I had to fight for my diagnosis. My doctor blew me off. And so he told me I was too young for breast cancer. However, breast cancer can affect people even as young as 16 years old. And just so you know, it affects men and women, but of course, women are primarily affected. So once I was diagnosed with breast cancer, it let me view life in a whole different way. And so you will hear some breast cancer survivors tell you that breast cancer was a blessing. And I can say that it was a blessing in some ways, meaning that I pick my battles now. I appreciate things that I didn't appreciate. I don't try to change people. Not that I tried to change them before, but some people you just have to leave where they are. But anyway, in 2002, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I am considered a triple negative, which is the most aggressive form of breast cancer. Black women are affected with triple negative status disproportionately to Caucasian women. We generally present later for treatment, and so we die. We have a higher mortality rate. Anyway, 2002, found my own lump, went to the doctors. He didn't believe me and did a biopsy to kind of tell me to, shut up and go away. But the biopsy came back that I did have cancer. October 11th of 2002, I received my diagnosis. When they went back in, they wanted to do a mastectomy. And when they went back in, I did not want a mastectomy. I did not sign a consent for a mastectomy. I was a young woman and I was still, still, not that I haven't stopped, but I was very sexually active, and I identified my femininity with my breasts and my hair, surprisingly. And so I did not give permission for a mastectomy. And then when they went back in, they found 3 more tumors that didn't show up anywhere else, and then told me when I woke up that I had to have a mastectomy, basically, which I put off until 2003, and only because I was so angry at the diagnosis that it interrupted my life. And 2003, they removed my right breast. I had to have chemotherapy. I lost all my hair. And I lived the next 5 years in fear that my breast cancer was coming back. My breast cancer was my boogeyman. And so for the next 5 years, I waited for it to come back. And I didn't necessarily live my life. But then once I hit the 5-year mark, I went and got reconstructive surgery. And I just, looked at life in a whole different way. And so I love to travel. You'll see travel on this channel. You'll see adventures on this channel. You'll hear my real life, the real things that I go through on this channel. And hopefully they appeal to this audience. Right now, currently, I am going through a situation where my mother, she contracted COVID. She's 89 years old. She contracted COVID in December. On December the 9th, I took her to the emergency room. She spent the whole month in the hospital. She developed a horrible bed sore on the heel of her foot, which my mother pre-COVID could walk and she would go and play dominoes, and she was very active, and then she was bedridden because of COVID. And it created a kind of it fast forwarded her dementia. So she was already forgetful, but she was able to do for herself basically with minimal assistance from me. I would just grocery shop for her, clean, clean up for her, get her meds, take her to the doctor's appointments. But at this point, after staying in the hospital for about a month, she was transferred to a rehab for 2 weeks, which they did not give her any rehab. Let me tell you something, and I am a nurse practitioner. The healthcare system in America sucks. It leaves a lot to be desired. I've been on both sides. I've been a patient and I've been a provider. I am a provider. And, my mom could have had better treatment. She did not get the services that they billed the insurance company for. They said my mom was walking 30 feet. My mom was not walking. It was impossible for her to walk. But anyway, at this point, she went from the rehab, so that meant at that point, January 25th, I was not able to see my mother since December the 9th at that point. So from December the 9th to about December the 28th, I wasn't able to see my mother because the facilities had restrictions on visitation. When my mother was transferred to a kind of assisted living situation where this lady was running an assisted living in her home, I did check it out before I put my mother there. The lady was very nice. The place was very clean. However, because the rehab lied and said that my mother was doing all of these things that she really was not doing, when my mother was transferred to this lady's assisted living in her home, my mother's level of care was too high. This woman was not able to provide the needs my mother required. One day, it was February the 18th, I believe it was, I went to the assisted living. My mother's leg was swollen. The wound was horrible. The wound had been getting worse because the nurses that they were sending out were only coming out twice a week, and they were not doing the proper wound care. They kept putting dry gauze in a wet wound and pulling it when you take it out, and it just wasn't healing. It was getting worse. Long story short, I called 911, and my mother is taken to another hospital, and I was not allowed to follow her in the ER because they had COVID restrictions in the ER. Excuse me. And my mother, again, like I said, her memory, post-COVID is terrible. So here this woman is with dementia, and I'll go into how dementia affects her. She has her good days and bad days, but she's not totally gone yet. But anyway, they admitted her to this hospital, and she is still there because they discovered that she had a blood clot in her leg. So she's going to need 3 months of blood thinners. And so today is March the 3rd. So my mother has been going through the healthcare system since her diagnosis on December the 9th, when I took her to an emergency room, because she was basically not, she was delusional, thinking she was on her way to church in Detroit when, we're not even anywhere near Detroit. But anyway, so currently what happened is I was trying to get my mother transferred to another rehab for physical therapy and occupational therapy based on the recommendations of PT/OT in the hospital. However, when my mother was going to be transferred this weekend just passed, which would have been, I think, February the 26th, they said my mother tested positive for COVID. So that meant she got it in the hospital. However, I have my doubts. She may not really have COVID because, as we know, COVID, you can test positive for COVID up to 90 days once you have actually had COVID and recovered. So I don't know that that's a real COVID diagnosis. However, the nursing home / rehab would not take her. In addition to that, my mother received a booster shot on Thursday. So that would have been the 24th. So they say that you don't respond or test positive after a booster. Listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I just think that I know a lot of situations where people got boosters and they tested positive and after receiving it or develop COVID. And so, but the literature teaches us that that's not a possibility. But this is a brand new virus. We don't know. There's different variants. We don't know. People are affected different ways. So currently, my mother, because now she's got COVID, the nursing home / rehab said they can't take her for 10 days if they even have a bed available at this point. And then, so she cannot have any visitors. She's on isolation, which makes it worse for somebody who has already memory issues. When you're not seeing familiar faces, and familiar environment, it worsens your memory. But anyway, so that is what's going on at the moment in my life. And like I said, this is an introductory video. And as I make more videos, you will get to know me more and more. But I hope that this video, you're able to go on adventures with me. See what I do on my day-to-day. I'm starting to see some weaknesses in the healthcare system. I have been in the healthcare industry since I was 17 years old. When I was 17, I went to high school during the day, and my mother paid for a nursing assistant course for me at night. But when I graduated high school, I had a job working as a nursing assistant. So I worked my way up from being a nursing assistant. I became an LPN, which is a licensed practical nurse. And I think in some parts of the country, they call it a licensed vocational nurse. And then I went and did a program where I went from an LPN to an RN program where I received my diploma RN. Then I went back and I got my bachelor's. And then I went back and got my master's in executive leadership. And then I went back and became a nurse practitioner. So that is my educational resume. But anyway, I hope that we have fun on this channel. I'm going to keep this video short. Wah, wah, wah. The Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. Sometimes people, I know when I look at other people's YouTube video, I fast forward it sometimes. Sometimes I'm just like, lady or sir, what are you talking about? So I'm going to try to avoid that. I hope you guys enjoy my channel. Again, this is Crystal. I'm the Nomad Nurse. And stay tuned for adventures, travels, and things out of my life. I'll try to keep this fun for you. Y'all stay blessed. My motto is life is what you make it, so make the most out of life. Bye-bye.